Welcome back to Divergent States. MDMA is still a Schedule 1 drug. On paper, absolute prohibition. There's no accepted medical use, high potential for abuse. It's in the government's harshest category. But at the same time, MDMA is in Phase III clinical trials, fast-tracked by the FDA. So which is it? Is it a dangerous street drug, or is it a breakthrough medicine? That's the limbo psychedelics live in right now. Criminalized on one side, medicalized on the other. And now they're getting pulled into something even riskier, politics. You've got presidential candidates out there like RFK Jr. talking openly about psychedelic medicine. And sure, I might agree with him on that single issue, but almost every single thing else he says, I couldn't disagree more. And that's where the unease comes in with me. Because the last time psychedelics became political symbols in the 1960s, the backlash shut it all down for half a century. And that's the tightrope we're walking today. The science is strong, the healing is real. But once politics start using psychedelics as prop, we're at risk of another crackdown. So, Brian, let me throw it to you real quick.
Yeah.
When you see psychedelics sliding into presidential talking points, what's your reaction?
I think at first, like, it's kind of like you said, like, it's exciting because, I want to see more therapies come out and, all the medical use that we talk about. But, it's like you said, man, it doesn't really, it doesn't really help a whole lot if you don't align with that presidential candidate and you don't align with, or, whoever the politics are. But at the same time, like, I'm hoping that, psychedelics here in this conversation are going to maybe help kind of bridge the gap a little bit that we have between parties. So I don't know. It's up in the air for me, I would say.
Right. And that's really the problem I see with a lot of stuff is it's tying too closely to the culture, any kind of culture wars or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, really, the medicine is more important than, um, the medicine is more important than politics, the people being healed and saved with that. So, like we don't allow politics on the subreddit. And the reason, because of that, because it tends to fall into personalities and culture too often. It's too divisive.
Yeah.
So we made a rule a long time ago. The only politics that we really talk about are legalization campaigns, initiatives such as like Arizona's Ibogaine initiative, veteran services. We tend to stay out of the general melee. So I figured we could do this episode and we'll talk about it a little bit. Maybe, kind of explain to everyone and our listeners out there, this is why politics are so dangerous with psychedelics.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to sit back. We're going to listen to some music from Sandbags. I think he spells it SNDBGZ something.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's badass is what it is.
Yeah, he's got some cool trance music. He's got an EP out there, Chosen Path. You guys check him out on Spotify. We're going to sit back and listen to it, and we'll come back and talk about the rest of this politics and psychedelics.
Imagine trees.
All right, so first I think we'll go a little bit into the history of psychedelics, and why this came to mind. We had a thread come up on the subreddit where it was about have psychedelics sold their soul,
Hmm.
and there's some really good conversation in there, and started making me think. So I sat down and wrote something. And I thought that this would be a great place to kind of make a what would you call it? Um, Collaboration piece to go with the article that was written.
Yeah.
So I guess the best place to start with how the culture war grows is the 1960s. Um, Back in the 1960s, they had real science coming after psychedelics. LSD therapy was at Spring Grove Hospital in Maryland. Harvard was experimenting with psilocybin. Stanislav Grof, he was working with LSD, and there were some really good results coming out of the 60s, especially when it came to like alcoholism and depression and end of life anxiety.
Dude, that's crazy because like I had no idea about any of that stuff.
Right. I mean, yeah, like I think it's Bill W. He's one of the founders of AA.
Hmm.
He actually wrote a letter later in life talking about how LSD should be part of their program for ending alcoholism.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
So
that.
yeah, LSD is like that was some of the earliest best uses they found for it was just alcoholism.
Wow.
One trip, one good trip of high dose trips could almost cure someone of alcoholism overnight, which was just amazing.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah, but really, the we that was the point. Like we had some really great like medical and mental health issues come out of that era,
Hmm.
but that's not the story that ended up sticking around. Timothy Leary's call to turn on, tune in, and drop out made for a better headline than any kind of peer reviewed article ever could.
Hmm.
Psychedelics became synonymous. Nixon did a lot of that. He made psychedelics synonymous with the counterculture movement,
Right.
anti-war protests. You know,
Hmm.
the kids were getting into trouble, and so psychedelics became the symbol of that. And that framing is what gave the Nixon administration the excuse to declare a war on drugs.
Hmm.
He pushed forward with the Controlled Substances Act, and overnight research collapsed. And so the lessons that we really got from those 60s is when psychedelics get too tightly bound to political or cultural movements, they become vulnerable to backlash. Science and healing become secondary to optics and power struggles. And so that's what I see. That's my fear of what happens when we start looking at psychedelics as part of the culture war or
Yeah.
as part of the politics. We lose sight of the medicine, of the healing. So, like, fast forward today, 60 years, and we're in the middle of the psychedelic renaissance.
Right.
Clinical trials for MDMA assisted therapy, as I mentioned earlier, in phase three with the FDA. Oregon and Colorado have rolled out legal psilocybin programs, legal psychedelic programs, really. Colorado's doing great things, even though I hear they're trying to push a law to limit personal use now. We'll see what happens there. But public opinion has shifted really quickly all of a sudden. I mean, Oprah, what a couple of months ago, came out with her thing
Hmm.
with Michael Pollan talking about how psychedelics can help people with PTSD and help with mental health. And so it's moving fast. You can see how the psychedelic renaissance is pushed into the mainstream so quick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that danger is still there. Politics is circling the psychedelics once again. Consider Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Hmm.
He's been an outspoken um, advocate for psychedelic medicine, advocating for its role in treating trauma, expanding mental health care. And on this issue, I agree with him, you know,
Hmm.
but on nearly every other issue that he has, I disagree with him.
So you
Sometimes fierce.
you mean
Yeah.
you agree with the smallpox vaccination?
Yeah, yeah, the vaccination stuff. The As Kirsten Cinema was trying to push the gold star science, I can't get behind that because I see, like the measles outbreaks down in Dallas, and um, You know, reflecting back on that moment, what I would say now is, how can you trust their so-called gold star science when you have measles outbreaks, or you're trying to kill vaccinations that save lives?
Yeah.
So there's very much and that's part of why I wanted to talk about this again today, is just to kind of, we it's part to pretend that the politics aren't there is just naive.
Right.
So, like I said, on nearly every other issue with him, I disagree with him. And and I've seen how the stories get written. If
Hmm.
psychedelics get too tightly close to a single polarizing figure, it won't matter what the data says. It
Right.
won't matter what the evidence says. Psychedelics will get lumped into that same culture war, framed as a partisan agenda, and dismissed by anyone who sees the figure as an enemy. And so what worries me the most is not RFK Jr. himself, but the tendency of our system to reduce complex issues into symbols or meaning.
Yeah.
Psychedelics are too important to be reduced to a political brand. Is kind of the key to it, and that's what we've been kind of going up against since day one, really. Uh, do you think that backlash was inevitable, or could psychedelics stay separate from the politics?
I know it's a really good question. I've been thinking about that as you've been talking. I mean, we've already seen it become part of politics, back in the 60s, as you said. Um, but I feel like back then too, people were less connected. It was, it's kind of easier to push propaganda when your only news is coming from the newspaper, or like 3 or 4 channels on TV. But now we're connected on social media. But I don't know. Like at the same time, like I could see psychedelics just being lumped into like that's just what people who go to festivals do, and those people are, they're crazy. They think weird things. Like that would be my concern with psychedelics,
Yeah,
because then it pulls away from, like you said, like there's a lot of medical research that was going on even back in the day. I mean, there was like the whole reason it was starting to have a rise in the first place.
right.
And
I think you made a good point there with you saying we have a lot more information than before. I think that's going to be a lot of the key to getting past a lot of that, to keep it you know um, from getting too tightly intertwined with politics. Kind of what we're
Mhm.
talking about here is we have that education now. We have the all the information at our fingertips as much as we can.
Well, and as we've seen, that we have a lot of really strong entrepreneurs that are pushing these agendas along too. We've had a chance to speak with a lot of them. So if everybody else that's out there doing the same thing as them is half as bright and just as talented, like I think psychedelics will make a strong move. But at the same time, like I feel you, I don't want, uh, but we're learning about here and the things that psychedelics can do for society. I don't really think it belongs in one category.
Yeah, I think if history teaches us anything, it's politics can make or break these medicines. And today we're seeing kind of those same currents again.
Yeah.
Um, so, psychedelics are still Schedule One, as I mentioned. Um, but a lot of it, as we see, it's they're at Phase 3 trials right now. I believe MAPS is trying to get um, kind of resubmit their application now, which shouldn't be too long. And the way the administration's acting, they're going to fast track a lot of these psychedelic medicines. And to me, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I could. That's the whole thing. But the result of it, what I'm afraid of, is you're going to end up with a two-tier system. You'll have legal trials in future clinics, and it's going to be legal but expensive there,
Right.
but criminal everywhere else. And that selective enforcement really isn't about freedom; it's about control.
Well, yeah, and then once it's on that level too, then it's like extra criminal. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
it's like we deal with.
We'll be right back.
Hey, if you've made it this far and you're still listening, consider dropping us a follow. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, whatever you're listening on. If you can, leave a quick rating. It's free, takes just a second, and helps more people find the show. If you want to go further, it's just $5 a month on Patreon for ad-free episodes, bonus content, and the satisfaction of knowing you helped an old acid head build something worth listening to. All right, let's get back to it.
In the cannabis cannabis industry all the time. Somebody will steal like an eighth that's like $10 at the
Right.
store, but they don't realize that they're going to be charged as if they stole a prescription medicine like Oxycontin or
Yeah.
Klonopin or something like that. Like it's not good to
No.
it's worse in terms of like what you can get in trouble for.
Yeah, it's so much more tightly controlled. And we see that even in like legal medical states with the marijuana, it gets so under control.
Hmm.
Just kind of it makes it hard for some people to be able to get it all the time. Kind of the same problem we're looking at here.
Yeah.
Right now, psychedelic medicine is fragile. The science is strong. Public legitimacy is still under construction. There's medical legitimacy now. Researchers doing peer reviewed journals, clinical trials, FDA pathways. But those gains can be undone really quickly if the public narrative shifts away from the science.
Hmm.
There's cultural legitimacy. I said even Oprah's kind of came in and put her 2 cents in.
Right.
Psychedelics have re entered the mainstream conversation through veterans, survivors, and community healing stories. And that's a powerful base of support, but it could really be undercut if psychedelics are seen as the project or a passion project of just one political faction.
Right.
So, kind of along the same lines, political legitimacy, lawmakers are watching closely. If psychedelics become synonymous with the RFK Jr. issue or any one politician's issue, their opponents will line up to fight it. And so that's kind of part of it as we're talking about. It can't be behind any one politician or make it any one party's agenda. It needs to be above the politics.
Yeah, and my hope is that we'll see kind of across both parties an embrace of psychedelics and embracing psychedelics. I think if we see that, there's potential that we can. That's my hope, is that psychedelics will actually, maybe if it does become this political thing, will actually be something that kind of brings us all together, that we can all agree on. That, hey, like, we might not agree on how to deal with immigration, we might not agree with where our priorities are as a country, but we can agree that we all want to see everybody have better mental health, and we want to take care of our citizens, and we're going to allow this medicine back into society. Hopefully that's something that can happen.
Yeah, and I think we could learn from cannabis legalization a lot from there because there
Hmm.
was a lot of good bipartisan in a lot of places. There's some really good bipartisan coalitions that came together to get cannabis legalized for everyone,
Right.
for patients, and so hopefully, it could still. It could still face backlash if it's framed as like a partisan thing,
Hmm.
but they could easily, and psychedelics could suffer the same fate, but, or worse, a repeat of the 60s crackdowns. So that's part of it, is just trying to keep that legitimacy and, to keep keep our eyes on the science and the evidence.
Hmm.
And that's part of why we're here. It's a lot of why we're here. It's why independent media, you know, is such a good thing. If you guys are enjoying this, you're listening now, come join us, patreon.com, Divergent States, join up there. We'll have a little bit more of the conversation there. But so, yeah, join us on Divergent States, Patreon. This is why, I mean, independent media and community storytellers matter. We can't control which politicians attach themselves to the psychedelics, but we can shape how the story gets told. As the founder of Psychonaut, now the world's largest forum dedicated to the safe use of psychedelics, and host with Brian here, co-host of the Divergent States podcast, we see how powerful unfiltered, community-rooted storytelling can be.
Hmm.
Online and podcasts, at conferences, people are documenting what psychedelics mean in practice, healing trauma, enhanced creativity, and reconnecting people with themselves and each other. That story is bigger than any political figure or culture war. And keeping it bigger than the politics is really the key to avoiding that kind of backlash. We've made a deliberate choice here on the podcast, to not have gurus, no party lines, no campaign slogans. Instead, we try really hard to feature researchers, veterans, artists, activists, and thought leaders who are
Hmm.
shaping the who are shaping the psychedelic landscape from the ground up. People like Rick Doblin, Leonard Picard, Ann Wagner, Hamilton Morris, and Reggie Watts. And soon we'll be sitting down with Joe Moore of Psychedelics Today. He's going to be doing an AMA on the subreddit too. The point isn't to stay apolitical out of fear, it's to keep psychedelics in their rightful frame. Their
Hmm.
medicines, their tools, and their cultural forces that belong to everyone. And they can't survive another round of being reduced to partisan ammunition. The difference between now and the 1960s is we have stronger foundations. The research is more robust. The community is larger, more diverse, better organized. But that doesn't mean that we're immune from the same traps. Um, if politicians succeed in branding psychedelics as their issue, that backlash will come. The opponents won't care about Phase Three's trials or John Hopkins data. They'll care about defeating whoever they see on their side of the issue. Or on their side of the aisle. And in that process, patients, veterans, survivors of trauma, people struggling with depression will lose access to therapies they desperately need. And we can't let that happen again.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, from your perspective, does it feel like progress or is it just kind of a new crackdown with this?
I would say it looks like progress compared to what I've seen, like how psychedelics were framed in the past. Especially when I was in the military, like
Right.
they seemed very fucking illegal at that time, and now it doesn't seem like it's that illegal. Like I'm thinking back to 2007. That's when I went in. So, um, and now in 2025, I mean, there was a giant psychedelic conference, and it's not the
Right.
first one. Like,
Well, the
um,
VA is now opening up, I think, psilocybin and ibogaine
yeah,
treatment. It's so
and we've got these all these amazing nonprofit programs that are sponsoring veterans and other people to go and try these things out and doing more research. And so to me, from my from where I sit, that looks like a lot of progress. But what about you? How do you feel about that?
I think it depends on the model. The Oregon model I see up there is having a little bit of struggles. The prices ranges are kind of going out of control, like 10 grand per session, because it's so tightly controlled.
Mm-hmm.
But I see like the Colorado model is doing really well. Like they're everybody's open to it. The microdosing, like they're opening up clinics. Like the Colorado model. So I would definitely say it depends on the model.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer who I prefer the Colorado model. What I'd really like to do, hopefully for an upcoming show, we're going to do this, is talk to somebody from Australia
Mm-hmm.
who is studying to be a psychedelic therapist over there. They've had it legalized over there since 2023. So be kind of cool to talk to somebody who's had it, and lives in a country where it's been legalized nationwide. And we've got a pretty
Yeah.
good, base over there in Australia. So maybe somebody down there can hook us up, find somebody we can talk to.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can leave us a comment. Hit us up on Patreon. We'll be sure to hit you up there.
Yeah. Hit us up in the Reddit subreddit too.
Yeah, hit it in the subreddits. Yeah, but what I see and the fear that I've got, like I said, it depends on the model, and the problem that I see results like with Oregon's model, for instance, is it ends up with a two-tier system. Um, Legal for trials and future clinics. It's criminal for everyone else. Um, so So, keeping psychedelics safe from politics doesn't really mean ignoring politics altogether. Policy reform is essential, but reform must be grounded in broad coalitions, transparent science, and independent storytelling. That way, no single figure can claim ownership and no single backlash can undo the process.
Hmm.
Independent media has a critical role here. Our job is to archive the stories that matter, highlight the voices that don't always get heard, and refuse to let the narrative collapse into another culture war. That means being willing to criticize both politicians and corporations when they overreach. It means holding space for nuance and contradiction, and it means putting patients, not politicians, at the center of the story. Psychedelics have always had the power to disrupt, to heal, and to connect. The power is why they were feared in the 60s and why they're returning now. But if we want them to survive this time, we can't let history repeat itself. So, as I see it, as we're talking with all this, um, there's really three paths forward with this. We've got the medicalized and corporate route, psychedelics, tightly controlled treatments. Grassroots and underground would be number two. Community healing, Risk of criminalization, though. And then three is political football. Psychedelics as partisan weapons. Which future dominates will depend on how the culture, holds its own. So it's really not up to us. It's up to you, the listener, who's out there, our audience out there listening right now. That, Brian, do you think that grassroots has a chance to survive once money and politics take over?
I think there'll always be grassroots. Like there's always someone that's like, yeah, I grow my own weed. Like I think there's always going to be a group of people that are willing to get together at a party or like get together as a group and go, okay, let's take some acid and just have fun. I think that'll always be there. But I do want to say one thing. I just read this article the other day about how some of these, like, there's a lot of microdose stuff out there right now, and they throw in these other mushrooms like it fucking matters or something, like, and you got to be careful with those things. I read this article about, like, some people have been getting poisoned uh taking
Wow.
some of these brands. So I'm hoping that, though I don't want like a lot of corporate involvement in this, but at least when those companies come in and they bear a risk of being sued and they want a good name for their company and their product, they at least kind of clean that problem up a little bit. Whereas right now we're like, remember when cannabis wasn't legal yet? And then we had all these CBD companies coming in and like basically just making this stuff in their garage, and there's no safety, there's no FDA, nothing there to like, you know, no checks and balances to ensure that these products are safe. And then we see people getting hurt from it. And I'm starting to see this happen now. People taking advantage of this idea of, microdosing psilocybin, things like that. It's like, got to be really careful out there. So I don't know. I'm hoping for like a 2-path system where like we have that safety net of the big dogs making quality products, but then also that space to enjoy it on a community level.
Yeah, I kind of talked about this with Ali Shaper back in the day. When she was on with her episode. By the way, it's blowing up. Like it's become our number 2 episode of all time.
Really?
Well, holy shit, yeah. Anyway, yeah, Ali Shaper. We were talking about that a little bit about like the gas station mushrooms. She
Right.
had, she was out with her boyfriend in Utah, and there's all these fucking mushrooms on the shelves,
Yeah.
and nobody knows what the fuck they are. So,
Yeah.
what can you do? So is there any sign you're really looking for? Like, I think it'll start to be like take shape here in the future of which way it's going to end up going. Is there any sign that that you're looking for? You think how you see how it's going to go?
Uh, I think right now I'm just looking for like, when's it going to be, one of these trials and medical practice is going to be more available for everybody, and it would be less of a niche kind of rich kid thing, because it's, it's expensive, very expensive. So it's kind of limited to who can go and do that. That's the sign I'm looking for, is like, when can the average American access these products?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's when will the average American, be able to, when can the soccer mom, pick up a microdose? I think there's probably a good gauge.
Yeah. Oh man,
uh,
can you imagine those commercials? I can
right.
see them right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Dropping off the kids and then
Dropping
going
off
to
the
pick up
kids.
your
Yeah,
pick up
take your
your
spray
acid.
of take your microdose spray of LSD.
That kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you watch South Park, but they're one of their latest episodes with Randy
Yeah,
and Tally
yeah,
microdosing
they're
the
doing their
ketamine
ketamine
until
microdose, and
they're
they're just
fucking tripping their
K-holing.
balls off.
Yeah, they're K-holing the whole time. There's like, oh, it's a microdose.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was pretty funny. I recognize that culture. We see that a lot in the culture, and I'm glad that as it gets more accepted and more open out there, I think that we'll see less of that. Kind of the early adopters or the people like that. Kind of, I don't know. I don't know. There's a reason South Park it's satire. You know what I
Right.
mean?
They're
Like,
they're really good at calling out what we are fucking up in society. Like,
right, right. We just don't have to take it so personal. We know.
right.
But yeah, no, it's and so yeah, I think as it gets more and more accepted in society, and I think you're right. I think once we see how how well it does in the mass market, once you start seeing how readily available it is,
Hmm.
that's really going to be kind of the bellwether, I guess you'd say, of how things are going.
Right.
Yeah, these conversations matter because we refuse to let the culture be flattened into campaign slogans or investor decks. We're not aligned to parties or corporations. We're aligned with people. Keep this alive. Um, yeah. So we've had a great. I think you know what. Let's take a listen. We're going to listen a little bit more sandbags a little bit, and then I think we'll come back and for the Patreon listeners, we're going to be talking a little more, and for everybody else, come join the Patreon. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on Apple. You know, click like. Join us on YouTube. Give us a review.
Yeah, those
You
are
know,
simple, free ways to help support us if you like us. But
right? Send a
maybe you can't
comment.
afford Patreon, or maybe that's just not something that you do. I know I'm kind of like that. I don't really sign up for
Hmm.
Patreon stuff myself. So, but this is a free way that you can help us out. You can like
Right,
the posts, you
and
can share them.
you put a comment in there. Put a comment in there. You comment on the Spotify. Send a comment on YouTube.
Hmm.
Yeah, and if you feel like you want to support independent psychedelic media, come over to Patreon. We've got videos. I put up all the shorts and promos I make. I throw those all up on Spotify, so you can keep them all in one place. Like we do extended episodes all the time, like we're about to do now. So you guys come
Right.
join us on the Patreon. Talk a little bit more laid back. Hey, and you'll really be wanting those when we got like Reggie Watts on, right?
Right.
When we're sitting back talking, you want to be in on part of that conversation. Come over there and join it.
Yeah.
But so we'll head over there and we'll talk to you guys next time. Psychedelics can take you deep, but you don't have to go at it alone. Fireside Project is your trusted companion on the psychedelic path. If you're having a tough trip, their free, anonymous support line is just a call or text away at 62-FIRESIDE. Planning the journey? Fireside certified coaches offer personalized video sessions to help you prepare and integrate, starting with a free 20-minute consult. Whether you're on the path, in the middle of it, or just getting started, Fireside is here for you. Learn more at firesideproject.org.